So I'll walk by in a minute.
Welcome to the 6th edition of the Mercury One-to-One news video. We're here today in the sales department next to the bell that will toll every time we connect a new customer to the one-to-one service.
And on the 16th of August, the sales team set about their task in earnest, going out for the first time, connecting real customers to our network. And since then, this bell has been ringing every day. And there's another order. But in a moment, we've got pictures of the sales team being let loose on the unsuspecting public.
Also, in this edition, we take an exclusive look behind the scenes at the production of Mercury One-to-One's launch advertising campaign. We have the pictures of the first press visit to the Sunbury Switch site, and we look back to the July launch readiness and network review, the decision which really fired the starting gun for today's sales activity. And finally, we've got pictures of some of the activities undertaken as part of Mercury One-to-One's community support programme.
But first, Graham Cove, the General Sales Manager, tells us just how Mercury One-to-One sales force have got their feet very firmly on the street. Matt Summerfield takes up the story.
We're here with Graham Cove, General Sales Manager. Graham, today's the Friday the 13th, funnily enough, of August. What's so special about today?
Well, this afternoon at about 4 o'clock, we've basically told our direct sales force that they can actually go out from Monday morning the 16th and take orders, commercial orders from customers for the first time. So in essence, we have moved into the business launch phase of our 3-stage launch, which everybody's been told about.
Right.
So they will be actually taking customers onto our network, full paying customers, from Monday morning.
Excellent. How many sales, how big is the sales force at this particular time?
As of Monday morning, it stands at 30 direct salespeople, but we have another 12 joining on Monday morning, ready for selling in September.
Excellent.
So it'll be up to 42 people from September.
So I'm sure this will be a very lucky Friday the 13th, let's hope.
It'll be an extremely lucky Friday the 13th for us.
Brilliant. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
But sounding the bell to set the sales force off to a roaring start did suffer the jinx of Friday the 13th, as Graham needed more than one attempt to get them away.
Direct sales force basically is go! Sales force is go from Monday. Tell you what, we'll leave it off this time. Take 3. Direct sales force from Monday the 16th of August 1993 is go!
But organising and managing a large direct sales force is a major task, as Graham Whitehouse discovered when he spoke with Head of Direct Sales, Jerry Upton.
How are the sales force going about selling our product?
Okay, well, we've tried to do it in a reasonably systematic way. We have a clean page to work on, and therefore what we've actually done is taken the M25 as a total,
Yep.
and then broken that down scientifically by salesman territory and area, so that we have equal opportunities for each of the people out there to bring in some business. We have now 7 area managers,
Right.
each of whom have 6 salespeople working for them.
Yep.
And the onus is very much on the salespeople to develop their own patch of geography.
Right. And what types of customers are they actually selling to?
Well, it's quite varied. We go from, at the small end of the market, the sole trader and the partnership,
Yeah.
typically wanting 1 or 2 phones, up to companies of 100 employees or so,
Right.
where there could be opportunity for a lot more.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, we have an opportunity away from our core business to develop some accounts which are larger still,
Right.
although the emphasis is very much on up to 100 employee sizes.
Great. Now, in the pre-launch period, what were the sales force actually doing? I mean, what were they filling their time with?
Okay, well, it really breaks down into 3 sectors. The first intake of people, back in February, was for beta. And we were setting up the beta program, getting would-be customers to participate in trialling and testing the system. And then in June, our second group of new starters, after their induction, moved into prospecting activity on their own territories to try and find out where the business might be in readiness for when we could sell. They did an amazing job, I must say. Within the space of 3 weeks, we had something like 9,000 companies contacted, which was all done physically, not on the phone, but by seeing people face to face. So that was no mean feat. And then more recently, as of today, we now have our latest group of people coming in, which finalises our people for this year.
Yeah.
And after their 3-week induction course,
Right.
they'll be going straight out and selling live.
Mm-hmm.
So it's now happening.
A sales management innovation is to have a field-based sales force. How are you making sure that works for Mercury One-to-One?
Yes, it is very new and not widely used, certainly in this industry. And the key challenge really with that is to make sure that the communications work well between the office, the sales management and the salespeople. And the way that we're trying to go about doing that is that the area manager's role is very much one of hands-on. They're out there with the salespeople, training, coaching, on field accompaniment, and helping them in every way they can at the sharp end. But also from an administrative point of view,
Right.
we have laptops which we're using actively with email to help the communication process work better. And if that doesn't work, we have faxes.
Right.
If that doesn't work, we have, of course, our one-to-one phones with voicemail.
Right. Okay. One of the things that I guess everybody would like to know is how are we being received in that marketplace?
Well, I must say that I was always positive about what I thought the market would say when they saw the product and the proposition. It has been very, very positive, both from beta trialists, who not at all times have had the best of service available to them, but now they are biting our hands off to buy the product, quite frankly. And also the prospects that we've been talking to, been very, very receptive to the whole proposition. Obviously, I think the 4 main things that we've identified have been the value for money aspect, the actual cost of ownership on a one-to-one phone. It provides them with an alternative as well, which is something that people are being anxious to find. And there's no doubt about it that the fact that we are Mercury one-to-one has been a big source of comfort to a lot of companies.
Once the bell had tolled, there was no stopping the sales force rushing out to make the first sales.
Following the review of our launch readiness held in July, we decided that Mercury One-to-One was ready to move to the second stage of its launch programme. That meant connecting the first full-rate commercial paying customers to the service. But the decision was only taken after an intensive 2-day service testing programme in which over 40 employees were involved in making thousands of calls over the network. After their mammoth telephone challenge, the participants in the survey returned to Elstree Tower to give their views and perceptions of the service. Each tester had been given specific instructions on where and what type of calls had to be made, often having to gain access to hospitals, libraries, police stations, and even inside the stock exchange in testing the system to its limits. Over 200 questionnaire forms were generated, which had to be collated and carefully analysed in a quantitative check on various aspects of the system's performance. In addition, testers also gave their own qualitative opinions and fed back direct to the head of cell network engineering, Eamon Gidenley, providing him with a priority list of where improvements needed to be made.
Okay, in terms of the problem, can you say whether or not, for example, it was related to when you made a call, when you finished the call, when you...
We couldn't even connect.
You couldn't even connect?
Most of the time we couldn't connect. Whenever we went in the building, once one building it worked in, any other building it didn't work, including shops,
Okay.
shopping malls.
How many calls did you make, do you think?
Probably in excess of
40 over 2 days.
The results of the survey were discussed at the directors' meeting which followed on the 22nd of July, at which it was decided to proceed to the next stage of launch in connecting the first commercial customers to the system.
So with the launch to real customers firmly in our sights, we decided it was time to unveil our network and our systems to the chattering classes of the trade and technical press, when we took a group of journalists around the network for a day's visit. Journalists from The Times, Mobile Telecoms News, Electronics Weekly, Public Network Europe, What Mobile and Cellular and LBC Radio joined the coach tour to Sunbury. In best tour guide tradition, members of the engineering and marketing departments briefed the journalists on the system and how it works. And they were so captivated by what they heard that they failed to notice London's landmarks gently slipping past. Before they knew it, they had arrived at Sunbury. Dave Watson, in charge of Sunbury, took them on a tour of the switch. answering questions along the way.
Only short hops, so we don't have the same experience. You can see from the labels of places we are, plenty of hospitals. We don't visit St Edward the Confessor very much, but Queen's Park Raven's football ground and lawns, we go quite regularly. There's nothing wrong with it.
But suspicions that one of the journalists was in reality a Cellnet spy were heightened, with his insistence of taking pictures of anything that moved or didn't move. A presentation of the network management system followed before the group left Sunbury. And on the journey to a lunch appointment with Richard Goswell, the journalists got their first opportunity to try out the one-to-one service for themselves, having been given the relevant instruction by engineering's Ian Johnson.
What's it sound like? Is it probably first morning?
Alright, he's probably coming like on a coach.
Some of the guests took to the service faster than others. But the ease of use of the handsets was one of the features that was most readily commented on. However, in true journalistic fashion, testing the service to its absolute extreme was an early priority for some of our guests.
I'll do my very best to knock as much RF off as I can. How does that sound?
Sorry?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Totally mad.
Hello? It dropped.
But overall, the journalists were impressed with what they saw. So much so that one of them just couldn't get off the line.
The first impression.
Excellent. Preparation for the full promotional launch of the one-to-one service are well underway, including the production of our launch advertising campaign. Interest in our plans is running high, particularly after the leaked news that our campaign features well-known personality Robert Lindsay and French actress Beatrice Dahl. We've managed to track down Marketing Communications Manager Andrew Ferguson to tell us a bit about the advertising campaign that's currently being shot in London. In fact, Andrew's just hot-footing it from Elstree Tower to the shoot, so we were lucky to get hold of him. Andrew, what's the thinking behind the campaign and what's it setting out to achieve?
Well, as you know, Alan, we're a different kind of company, and everyone else in telecoms up to now, especially on mobile phones, has concentrated on keeping in touch and the phone. And that's so ordinary and so generic that we wanted to find something a little different. Keeping in touch is too generic. When we thought this thing through, we established that keeping in touch builds relationships, and to cut a very long story short, we decided to centre on relationships.
Now, we've all heard and seen the fact that we're using TV's Robert Lindsay from GBH and Citizen Smith and steamy French actress Beatrice Dahl in the campaign. Can you tell us what the thinking was behind selecting these personalities?
Well, we needed a good couple to portray the plot. And Robert Lindsay is an extremely good actor. You've mentioned GBH, and he's grown up quite a lot since the early stuff he did, like Wolfie down in Tooting, Citizen Smith, etc. He's also a comedy actor, and our campaign will have a good strain of comedy in it, but it needs very good acting. So that's Robert Lindsay. With Beatrice, clearly we needed someone who would be impactful, not a classic beauty, because you find in advertising that classic beauty just goes in one eye and out the other, so to speak. You need someone that's a bit different, but very impactful, and I think you'll agree when you see Beatrice that she fits the bill.
Now, we've all heard and read a lot of speculation about what's actually going to happen in the campaign. What can you tell us now about the storyline?
Well, there isn't an awful lot I can tell you, Alan, because a lot of it is in the waiting, and it'll be a story which unfolds across several commercials. But what I can say is that they develop a relationship, strangely enough, since that's the advertising strategy, and they develop that relationship courtesy of one-to-one. The big question will be, do they ever meet? But I'm not going to answer that question today.
Right, now we all reckon that advertising is a glamorous business and it's all a lot of fun and whatever. Can you tell us a bit about how the shoot is going and what's the progress is so far?
Well, my brain is just about working still this morning. We're coming to the end of a 2-week shoot. It starts at 6 in the morning with call orders and getting everything organised, and it finishes on average about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. The latest finish we've had so far has been 1 in the morning. So it's not all sitting in directors' chairs drinking coffee. It's hard work, but it'll be worth it in the end.
Andrew, very much look forward to seeing the campaign, and thanks very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Even though Andrew refused to give us any details of the campaign storyline, we succeeded in smuggling a cameraman onto the set of the first ad at the D stage at Shepperton Studios. Certainly, 1-to-1 was greatly in evidence, but quite what was going on was not clear at all. For instance, where does this dog fit in? Who are these people? Obviously, it's a highly technical business, where everybody seemed to know what they were doing, but nobody would tell us. And apart from spying Robert Lindsay taking tea, we didn't see any stars on the set. Certainly Beatrice Dahl was nowhere in sight, to the great disappointment of our cameraman. We asked WMGO Creative Director Jerry Moira to try and explain.
Work started on these commercials over 2 years ago, starting with a great deal of strategic and positioning research and planning, and then at least 12 months of creative development research and creative work. We must have produced, I think, 4 or 5 campaigns, researched them competitively before coming up with the optimum advertising solution for Mercury 1-to-1. The director of these commercials is a chap called Anthony Minghella, who directed the film Truly, Madly, Deeply, and we felt that he had the right comic and mainly romantic touch to make these commercials really different and really involving as the relationship between Robert and Beatrice develops.
Sounds intriguing, but we'll have to wait to find out what does happen in those adverts with the full promotional launch of Mercury 1-to-1. Now, Mercury 1-to-1 has been hitting the headlines in other ways recently with the start of its community support programme set up by Richard Goswell as part of his Families and Communities Value.
The programme gets Mercury 1-to-1 involved in a wide range of community projects, both at a company level and with projects that involve individual employees. The sorts of things that we're looking to get involved in are schools and youth projects, local campaigns and cultural projects, or really anything that supports local community life. Now, any employee can nominate a project for sponsorship either by the company or at a personal level. There are a set of guidelines that determine which projects can be sponsored and which projects can't, and that's available from Michelle Chandler. Nominations for support will be gratefully received by Jim Morrison, Richard Goswell or myself, so please send them in.
Now, this board here in Elstree Tower reception will be detailing the current projects that are being sponsored by the Community Support Programme. As part of the programme, Mercury 1-to-1 recently donated park benches to Westminster Council in support of the refurbishment at Churchill Gardens Estate in Pimlico, where rent from the nearby 1-to-1 base station paid for the refurbishment work. Dave Colley, seated on one of the Mercury 1-to-1 benches, demonstrated the 1-to-1 phone to eager onlookers. Projects involving children have been particularly popular. Both Alan McGregor's and Mike Day's wives work at schools for mentally and physically handicapped children, which have been supported by the programme. At Watling View School at St Albans, Mercury 1-to-1 donated a ball pool, handed over at a special ceremony attended by Richard Goswell. At the Orchard Centre in Boreham Wood, where Mrs Day works as a teacher, Mercury 1-to-1 donated a sandpit. We hope to have footage in our next issue. Alan Haddon's wife works with the National Childminding Association, where the Community Support Programme recently donated prizes to its annual general meeting. Mercury 1-to-1 also gave every participant either a T-shirt or a water bottle at the Boreham Wood Half Marathon and Fun Run. Jeff Fitzgerald and John Taylor ran the course for 1-to-1.
Hello, I'm John Taylor. I'm running this morning in the Mercury 1-to-1 sponsored Boreham Wood Half Marathon.
Jeff, how did you find the race?
Terrible.
Where did you actually come in and at what time?
I came in 1 hour 42 minutes.
Excellent.
I've never done this thing before. Oh, these last 2 miles are terrible.
Are you going to participate next year?
Oh yeah.
Across the other side of London to Dagenham, Mercury 1-to-1 also sponsored John Reed in the Dagenham Half Marathon.
7.5 miles and I'm struggling.
The pace was tough, but John succeeded in taking 1-to-1 over the finishing line to a well-deserved drink.
Well done, Leslie! Well done!
After finishing your race, how do you feel? What about Nacho?
This is the prestigious trophy to be won as part of the Mercury 1-to-1 Super League football competition. 6 teams are taking part in the competition, including implementation, operations, engineering, sales and marketing, IS and finance. And Richard Goswell is seen here in true FA Cup style, pulling out of the hat the draw for the first round.
This is the draw for Group A of the 1-to-1 Super League. And it's number 6, which is Marketing Wanderers.
But the latest news we understand that the competition is now at semi-final stage and is now down to 4 teams. The matches between IS and marketing to be held on the 9th of September, and implementation and versus operations to be held on the 2nd of September will set up for a major final to be held at Borehamwood FC's football ground in Borehamwood on the 23rd of September. Clearly we'll be reporting on that, an in-depth report in the next edition of Mercury 1-to-1's news video. But what about that caption competition from the last edition of News Video? Remember that one? Dave Clark and several pregnant women? Well, if you remember, PR was offering a bottle of champagne for the best caption that we received in response. And Anna and I are now going to pull the winning entry out the hat. It's very exciting. I'll just go and get the entries right now. As you can see, we've had a huge response, and I'll just tip them out onto the floor here.
Is that it?
Not as many as we thought.
Well, this is it.
It's like that's the winning entry, Anna.
Yeah, I can tell you then that the winner is Pradeep Finance, and his answer to the caption was that there's no sex discrimination in this company.
So that brings us to the end of this, the August edition of the Mercury 1-to-1 news video. We hope you found it interesting. And of course it's the last edition before we actually set sail on the promotional launch. That means in the next version we'll be able to bring you pictures of the advertising going on air, the launch events, and bring you a report on how well Mercury 1-to-1 is progressing towards becoming the leader in mobile communications. From me, that's it. Anna, anything else to add?
Yes, I just wanted to remind all employees about the Family Day on the 12th of September. Don't forget to be there.
Now, without the kinds of budgets that we've been able to afford for our advertising campaign, it is of course, quite tough making the Mercury 1-to-1 news video. We've been up, 2 o'clock in the morning right now. We've been up all night filming, scripting, shooting, rehearsals and so on and so forth. I'm totally bushed. What about you?
Yeah, I'm exhausted.
Yeah, I think we should go off and have a
quick
cup of tea with the stars, don't you?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, see you later.
See you. Bye.
Where are we?
Oh, really? Yeah.